Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Nico the Vet Show. Thank you for joining us, and as always, thank you very much to everyone who's written in with comments and questions. Great fun, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the replies. So for today's topic, I thought what we might address is a question I often hear, which is, why does my dog or my cat eat grass? So there's a lot of misinformation out there. If you Google it, you get all sorts of explanations. You speak to your vets, you get all sorts of explanations. And I think most of them are just not true. The bottom line is we don't know for sure. We don't know exactly why. But we have a very, very strong hypothesis, a very strong theory why. And I think that theory is correct and it holds water. So let's deal with the misconceptions first. So one of the common things I hear is, oh, they eat grass because they need it as part of their diet. It gives them roughage, or it gives them something that they are lacking in their diet, particularly because if you consider that they are predators, and in the real world, where there's no cat and dog food, they would have had to have caught their own prey. And they eat the prey, guts and all. So they eat everything that's in the prey animal's guts, which is often grasses and various other plant materials. And so by feeding them commercial dog foods, they're somehow missing out on that, whether it be, like I say, the nutrient value or whether it be the roughage value, but they're making up for that deficiency in their diet. So first of all, I think that's wrong. I don't think that's why they do it. And it annoys me a little bit. I sound like a grumpy old man. Everything annoys me nowadays. But I've sometimes seen in pet shops and in pet retailers that they'll sell you little dishes with grass growing in it, which is for your indoors cat, which never goes outside. And this is grass for them to eat because this is what is natural and normal for them. Well, it's not normal. So why do they do it? Well, first of all, let's consider what is the effect of eating grass. So for everything we do in life, dogs and cats included, we do it because it will give an effect, or we're hoping it gives an effect, and it's the effect we're after. So what is the effect that they're trying to achieve? And to understand that, look at the grass that they choose to eat when they go outside. So if eating the grass was a delicious dietary supplement, then just like us, they'd be going for soft grasses, a bit like salad. They'd be going to something soft, something lush, something tasty that you can sort of chew on. It feels good in the mouth and you swallow it. But no, that's not what they're eating. That's not what they're after. If you look at what they're after, they're eating the longest, sharpest, coarsest, toughest strands of grass that they can find. Some will even eat pampas grass, which is often really, really, really irritant to their guts. But the point being, they're not eating soft, luscious salad. They're eating really coarse, sharp, nasty. It's this kind of grass that if you sort of slid your hand up it, you'd probably cut your fingers. So why are they doing this? Well, if you eat something sharp and fibrous and hard and pointy, and you put that in your stomach, the obvious effect is it's going to upset your stomach. And when your stomach is upset, it will make you throw up. So that's why they're eating it. They're eating it because they want to throw up. Now, why would you want to throw up? And the answer is the same reasons as us. If you have an upset tummy, so you're going through your day, you've done nothing out of the ordinary, and then you just get that sort of disgruntled, acid, sort of uncomfortable, crampy feeling in your tummy, and you start to feel a little bit nauseous. You don't think, I don't really want to eat. And that nausea can escalate, so you become more and more nauseous, and eventually you reach a point where you think, geez, I feel so nauseous, and sometimes you'll be drooling. The cats and dogs will be the same. You think, oh, I feel so nauseous, I feel so rubbish. If I could just throw up, if I could just vomit, I'm sure I would feel better. So the reason that feeling comes upon us is that your stomach has determined that there's something in there which is not good for you. And now that something could be anything. It could be some sort of chemical which is you've eaten perhaps in your food, or a half-rotten carcass, or you've eaten food that's gone off, or eggs that have gone past their expiry date, and you've eaten it and it tasted perfectly fine and you were happy with it, but your stomach has gone, no, this shouldn't be here. This is not going to do me any good. I need to get rid of this before there's a detrimental effect to my body. And that then a message starts up in your brain in what's called the CTZ, which is the chemoemetic trigger zone, and that goes, right, guys, we've eaten something we shouldn't have. We need to expel it and get rid of it before it does us harm. So that's why we vomit. We vomit in response to the stomach saying, there's something in here that is not good for me, and I do not want to hand it on to the rest of the body. So if we apply that to the cats and dogs now, so they're going outside, they something has told them that your tummy's upset, you need to get rid of what's in there, and then your response is, well, you and I would say, well, I'll stick my finger down my throat and that'll make me throw up. They can't do that. They don't have the dexterity we have, and so they've over thousands of years of instinctive evolution, they figured out that you eat something rough and caustic and irritant, that will have the same effect as sticking your finger down your throat, and that will make you throw up, which is to make you consciously think, oh, geez, I feel so much better. I was feeling so nauseous, but also from an evolutionary scale, may well have saved you from dying from the thing that you've eaten. So that's the bottom line. They're eating because the tummy's upset. So we have to split these cases into two cases, acute and chronic. Acute means that it's a new problem. It's a sudden onset problem. It's never been there before, and the symptoms have been around for, by definition, less than 3 weeks, but in real terms, less than a day or two. Whereas your chronic cases are cases that have been doing something long term, so again, by definition, more than 3 weeks, and it's something that they have done over that period of time for a very long period of time. So let's look at the acute case. So you've got your dog or your cat who is not habitually a grass eater, and they just suddenly are whining at the middle of the night, driving you nuts, and you sort of stumble out of your bed, open the door, the dog goes outside, you put the outside light on, and your dog's frantically chomping away at the overgrown grass verge at the side of the veranda that you've been meaning to mow. And they're literally frantic. They sort of bite and pull it in and gulp down these masses. So if this is not something he's ever done before, then I think it's safe to say this dog or cat has eaten something in the last 24 hours that their body has deemed is harmful to them, and they've been sitting in their bed thinking, oh, I feel terrible, and please let the morning come. I think we've all had nights of illness like that where the old joke is you worry you're going to die, and then you worry you're not going to die, and you're going to have to live with this problem. So they finally whine enough to get you up, and they storm outside, chomp down all the grass. They may or may not vomit straight away after that. Some will even go outside, eat a lot of grass, and then have quite profuse diarrhea. The reason for that is, going back to why we vomit, the stomach has perceived there's something that shouldn't be in there, but if some of that something has already moved through your intestines and is working its way through, then the lower part, the lower part of your small intestine and your large intestine will have the same reaction as the stomach. They'll go, oh, blimey, there's something in here which is not good for me. I need to get rid of it, and hence it activates the diarrhea mechanism. So it's trying to shoot it out the front end, and if some has gone through, it's trying to shoot it out the back end. And this is why you'll often then find that they vomit up. Sometimes you're not even aware, of your dog eating the grass, or you've just watched them eat all the grass, and then sometime later you'll see they've vomited up a big knotted ball of grass, often in some sort of yellowy green fluid, which is bile, and there may even be little traces of blood in it because the blades of the grass are so sharp. You'll find that often because you saw your dog eat the grass, or you didn't see your dog eat the grass, but the bottom line means they've thrown up. And usually that's it, job done. So whatever it was that their body perceived was the problem, rightly or wrongly, the body may have made a mistake, it's acted appropriately, it's made you do something, made you throw up, and it's now out of your system. And really, as long as the dog is then happy to eat, or the cat is happy to eat their breakfast the next day, they seem quite jolly, they're eating well, they're not eating grass anymore, and after a day or two they poo normally, then you're absolutely fine. You don't need to do anything more about it. If they frantically just keep eating the grass again and again and again, this is the category who doesn't normally do this, it's probably worth a visit to your vet just to make sure that the thing they're trying to get rid of isn't perhaps stuck in the stomach, and that may need more attention. I've also, it's very rare, but I've seen some dogs, not cats really, dogs, I think, sometimes eat so much of this rough, coarse grass that it actually forms a big knot, so big that they can't vomit it back up, and then they've just created a whole new problem for themselves, and that may need to be removed. This sort of big ball of knotted grass, that's called a phytobezoa. In cats, we're more likely to see a bit of grass tied up with a lot of hair in their gut, so it's more a fur ball that's gotten stuck than a plant ball, and that's called a trichobezoa. But we digress. If we go back, so that's the acute. Your dogs or cats have suddenly started doing it. They're quite frantic about it, but once they've chucked up, they've resolved and they feel better. Good, that's the end of it. Then we get the guys who do this chronically, the long-term sort of habitual guys. And like I say, these are the guys I'm talking about who've been doing this for months, if not years, and we've come to accept this as normal in inverted commas. Well, it's not normal. So why are they doing this long term? The answer is they have the same problem as the ones who've just suddenly started frantically doing it, but they've got a lower level of it. It's a less frantic sense of nausea and a less frantic sense of I need to get rid of this. So what I think is going wrong in these guys is they probably, almost certainly, have effectively an irritable bowel type syndrome, where there's an inflammatory, uncomfortable, crampy, slightly nauseating feeling going on in them all the time because they have the doggy version of irritable bowel syndrome. To try to understand what they feel like, probably the best way is imagine the last time you had acid indigestion, sort of a heartburny sort of feeling. You get this sort of burny, acidy feeling as the acid sort of refluxes up from your tummy up to your esophagus, which is the swallowing tube. And it creates like I say, a burny, uncomfortable, crampy, slightly sort of nauseating feeling. And you get that sense of, oh, I feel just rubbish. Something wrong in my tummy. If I could just throw up, I'm sure I'd feel better. But oftentimes we don't feel quite sick enough to actually throw up. And the same, I think, happens in dogs and cats. And these are the guys who habitually eat grass, sort of bite, and you see they sort of bite at it. They're not relishing the meal of grass. They're sort of biting at it. They're agitated. They're frustrated. Like, oh, fed up, feeling so ill. And they've done it over the very, very long period of time. And you sometimes see, sort of in your garden or in your house, little clumps of grass that they've vomited up. But they don't seem desperately unwell, and they're sort of getting on with it. And most of us just ignore it, and we think that's normal. Well, that's wrong. Again, think of these guys as having irritable bowel syndrome. Think of these guys as experiencing like a long-term, low-grade, grumbling heartburn, which probably goes through peaks and troughs. It flares and settles and flares and settles. So what to do for these guys? Well, the bottom line is if they have effectively an irritable bowel syndrome, it's quite a complex concept, and I have addressed this more fully in another talk, but to completely oversimplify it just into sort of a useful, practical understanding of it, imagine with irritable bowel that you're eating something that your tummy or your body is just reacting to. So in human beings, it's usually with us, it's usually your lactose or gluten products. So bread and milk are the things we're most commonly intolerant to. And in effect, it's your body making a mistake. It's your body saying, oh my word, I've got some lactose in me, or I've got some gluten in me, and this is bad for me, therefore I need to get rid of it, again, by the mechanisms of vomiting or diarrhea. So in these instances, your body is making a mistake. You've not actually truly taken in something toxic or noxic, oh, blimey, get it right in a minute. Noxious. There we go. Toxic or noxious. So something that's either bad for you or just makes you feel unwell. But your body is in effect making a mistake with these cases, but the effects on you are as real as if there was a real problem, and so your response is to try to vomit. So in human beings, like I say, lactose and dairy are the issues. In animals, it's almost never lactose and dairy. It's almost always the protein source in their food. And the bad proteins, the ones most likely to cause an irritable bowel type reaction, are beef, mutton, lamb, and more chicken. So if you have a long-term cat or a dog who has this long-term sort of grass-eating thing, and they may or may not throw it up, and you may or may not see it in their poo, change their food is the first thing. In very simplistic terms, their food doesn't agree with them, and we need to try something else. And if you try something else, look on the label and look for food that doesn't contain beef, mutton, lamb, or chicken. So what does that leave? That leaves venison. It leaves fish-based foods, and probably to go the whole hog, if you look at the big food manufacturers, they make foods specifically with novel proteins, novel meaning a protein you've never eaten before, on the premise that if you've never eaten it before, you can't be intolerant to it, because it takes time to build up intolerances to things. So Hills make they make one, and Royal Canin make one. They're interchangeably called hypoallergenic or analergenic or ZD diets. But all of those are a good starting point to make sure that you're staying away from the proteins that may be harmful, because a lot of the more commercial stuff will say just it's got, say, fish-based, but then also if you look in the list of ingredients, they'll say and animal products, and that's wishy-washy. What does that mean? What are animal products? So either be sure that you're avoiding beef, mutton, lamb, and chicken, or just switch to, like I say, one of the Hills or the Royal Canin versions. I'm not here to blow their trumpets, but certainly their foods, the ones I mentioned, are suitable in these purposes. So basically, switch your cat or your dog, because you've got to feed them something. So you might as well switch and try and find something else that suits them, and then see if this long-term low-grade grass eating, throwing up or not, and diarrhea or not, and grass in either the vomit or diarrhea or not, but basically the symptom of the grass eating, see if that abates over the long term. If you've done a trial and you've fed them the new food, whatever you've chosen to feed them, and it's not settled down after, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks, try another one, and go back to the list I gave you earlier, and try one, try the other, and keep going until you find the food that suits your cat or dog, and you'll see that their symptom will go away. Why is this important to do? A lot of people say, well, he throws up and then he seems fine, so I'm not too bothered about it. Yeah, well, the poor guy, or girl, they are, when you actually see the grass eating and the nausea, this is in the long-term cases, they've probably been feeding grotty for hours, if not days. So you're just seeing the culmination of that. You're not seeing that just uncomfortable, crampy feeling. And anyone with irritable bowel, or the more dramatic forms, the celiacs and the diverticulitises and the Crohn's disease patients, they'll tell you this is miserable. And although you get to these sort of peaks and troughs, even the troughs are pretty uncomfortable. So please don't ignore this as a symptom, and certainly don't go with the, oh, it's natural, let's go and buy them a little bit of grass in a container from the pet shop. It's not normal, it's not natural. We need to change their food to find out what suits them better, so they can get rid of this irritable bowel, heartburny sort of feeling. So I hope that's made some sort of sense. As always, a slightly haphazard talk. I find it's better not to actually sit down and prepare something, and just to sort of speak as we would speak normally off the cuff. I find we sort of address more points that way, but it means I sometimes stumble over my words. So thank you once again for joining the show. Please keep your questions coming, and I'll try and address more topics that everybody wants to hear about in the future. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.